Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. And for those of you who don't know me, I do talk about true crime from all over the world. So please, if that's your kind of thing, remember to subscribe if you find this video informative, interesting, and if you want to keep updates on this case of Phoebe Bishop. Very, very sad case. This young girl disappeared, didn't she, over there in Australia? Disappeared. Her family were worried about her. Her flatmates were claiming that they dropped her off at the airport. She was going off to visit her boyfriend. And just they dropped her off at the airport as far as they were concerned, or near the airport. And nobody heard from her since then. And now, of course, her body has been found. The flatmates have been charged with murder. But there's some breaking news, and that breaking news is that there's been a third person charged in this case. Just always amazes me how people can cover up for evil, can't they? You know, this is Phoebe. She was 17 years old, Phoebe Bishop. And not only these two flatmates, well, they allegedly murdered Phoebe and then moved her body more than once, according to the police. Now it turns out that somebody has helped them as well, probably after the murder of Phoebe. You know, you just wonder, what's this conversation? That, you know, your friend phones you up or comes round to your house or whatever and says, oh, by the way, you know, God, I've had this terrible evening. You know, I ended up murdering this girl, and can you help me cover up for it? You imagine having that conversation with your friend. It just like, you'd be like, oh yeah, okay. I mean, maybe you might say yes initially because you'd be bloody terrified for a start. As soon as you got to a phone or whatever, you'd be on the phone to the police. Well, you should be anyway. You should have a conscience. You know, just this poor girl, young girl, very young girl, had her life robbed. So yeah, a third person has been charged in relation to the alleged murder of Queensland teenager Phoebe Bishop. So her body was found in scrubland near Bundaberg in Australia 3 weeks after she was last seen, and her housemates Tanika Bromley and James Wood have been charged with her murder. And now a third man has been charged as an accessory to the alleged murder, and he is due to appear in court on August the 25th. And this man is 30-year-old Kieran Daniel Mittelhuser, and he's been charged with 2 counts of accessory after the fact to murder. So it's helping to hide the body, or you know, they changed the number plates, didn't they, on their car to try and make it more difficult for the police to identify their car, etc. Oh, and then they said they will allege that Mr. Mittelhuser interfered with the investigation into Miss Bishop's disappearance by using her mobile phone. And was it him that sent those messages? There were some strange text messages, weren't there, that appeared. He's also facing charges of unlicensed driving, fraud, and drug possession. Nice guy. Sort of guy you know, want as a neighbour. And he was arrested just after 7 p.m. last night. Let's have a look at the video.
Detectives have charged a third person in relation to the disappearance and alleged murder of a 17-year-old Bundaberg girl, Phoebe Bishop. It will be alleged the 30-year-old man used the victim's mobile phone to interfere with the investigation. Following extensive investigations, detectives arrested the man shortly after 7 p.m. last night in Bundaberg West. The 30-year-old man has been charged with 2 counts of accessory after the fact of murder. He is due to appear in the Bundaberg Magistrates Court today, July 2. As the matter is still before the court, this is all I can comment about at this time.
So using her mobile phone, so that could have been sending texts, or it could have been trying to make it appear that she was in a different place to where she was. Anyway, Mr. Mittelhuser did not appear when his matter was mentioned in the Bundaberg Magistrates Court on Wednesday. And Magistrate John McInnes ordered a brief of evidence be prepared for the 2 charges of accessory after the fact to murder and a single fraud charge. And Mr. Mittelhuser's solicitor Mark Zeller said the fraud charge related to using a debit card. Don't know if that was actually Phoebe's debit card necessarily, but somebody's debit card that he wasn't supposed to be using by the sound of it. He did not apply for bail and he has been remanded in custody and is due to appear in court on August the 25th. So let's just recap over Phoebe's case. She was last seen on May the 15th when she failed to board a flight to Brisbane at Bundaberg Airport on her way to Western Australia. She'd been living in this horrible house. Remember, we looked at this house in Gingin, about 50 kilometres west of Bundaberg. Human remains were finally found in this Goodnight Scrub National Park. It sounds so lovely, doesn't it? Good night. On June 6, which were formally identified as a teenager on June 17th. So they searched for her for quite a long time before they found her, bless her. But at least they found her. So her housemates, James Wood and Tanika Bromley, have been charged with 1 count each of murder and 2 counts each of interfering with the corpse. Because she was moved at least twice, I think, they think. Here they are. Tanika, the double deviant, because you don't expect this behaviour from a woman, do you? Seems like it was Tanika that knew Phoebe through the family. You know, they'd known each other, been out on parties and things, worked together. And of course, she'd met, she had this lovely boyfriend. Oh, Tanika. Must have thought you'd won the lottery when you met him, did you? You know, you can just see by looking at him what a lovely man he is. And police will allege that all 3 were in the car on the way to the airport, but Miss Bishop never made it into the terminal. Now, they're not saying she was necessarily alive on the way to the airport, but she was in the car, they believe, don't they? She never made it into the terminal or onto the plane she was due to catch. And the thing is, obviously, they drove to the airport to make it look as if it's like Stephen Stearns, isn't it, with Madeline Soto, driving her to school, making it look as if he'd taken her to school with her propped up dead in the passenger seat, and then him saying she slept all the way. You know, honest to God, these thickos that, think they're so clever, don't they? So, seems Phoebe was in that car on the way to the airport. Whether dead or alive, we don't know, but she was on it, or maybe her mobile was in the car. Who knows what this new guy who's been arrested is supposed to have done with her mobile. Do you remember we watched a video, her auntie was talking and saying that she'd suddenly got texts off Phoebe after she hadn't heard from her for ages. So it could be that he just didn't know who he was texting, trying to text as if she was still alive. I think she was probably died a couple of days before this, because she disappeared a couple of days before, no contact was heard from her. Makes you wonder, did she actually die on that day, or had she already been dead for a couple of days and they were waiting for that opportunity, to pretend they were taking her to the airport to make it look like they dropped her off at the airport. So speaking after Miss Bromley and Miss Bromley and Mr. Woods were charged, Detective Inspector Craig Mansfield said the police would allege Miss Bishop's body was moved more than once. So this is the latest news on that. This is going to be, we will follow it, obviously. I mean, there'll probably be a long period of a lot of silence now coming up to the trial. Trial's not going to be probably till next year, is it? Just this poor girl and her poor family, victims of these 2. Just so much worse, isn't it, when it's a man and a woman as well? And I'm sure Phoebe trusted this woman. And we don't know why Phoebe ended up living in that hellhole. We saw it. It's disgusting, dirty, just horrible place where they were living. And they'd only been there 6 months or something. I mean, You know, how can you make a place that dirty in 6 months? I don't know. You know, it's 6 years maybe. So anyway, just thought I'd let you know the latest. I know a lot of you are interested in Phoebe's case. At the end of the day, a young girl like that, 17 years old, her whole life in front of her. Apparently a lovely girl. We saw her sister, very emotional, talking, her mum speaking. You know, just heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. She's been laid to rest. They've had a private funeral. And her mum and her family said thank you to everybody that cared about Phoebe. So now they've got to rebuild their life as well. Okay, so thank you for caring about Phoebe. It's important, isn't it? It's important that Phoebe, you know, justice for Phoebe now it is. At least she's been found, she's been laid to rest. That's the cold comfort that these families get, isn't it? If they're lucky enough to find their loved one's remains. It's just ridiculous, really, that ends up being, you know, maybe the best thing they can hope for in the end in these sort of cases. So anyway, Phoebe's not lying out there on her own anymore. That's important. So thanks for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God always go with you. Thank you.